because I didn't expect this to happen. We're back again with another guest. And as usual, we like to always kind of amp things up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we didn't just bring one guest in.
No, we turned it up.
We have two.
We got
guests
two.
today. Welcome, Evan and Katelyn.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
This is great. This is
Hello.
exciting.
This is super exciting because up until this point, like we've featured mostly like Minecraft-centric content creators. And you're actually like the first guests that we've had that are more outside the just Minecraft realm. You do a little bit more than that. Why don't you tell our audience what you guys do on the tubes of you?
Oh gosh, a lot of different things, probably too much. Our main channel is we do like DIY, we make stuff. Usually like not practical stuff at all.
You don't think that a 1,000-watt candle is practical? It's warmed me from 10 feet away.
It's practical if you want a 60-pound bonfire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do like a mood ring toilet, or we made the velvet keyboard. We do a lot of resin stuff. And then we also have our gaming content, where we do a variety of games, stream live on Twitch, and then we put it on YouTube. And then we have another channel, the second channel, where we do all the
Whatever
stuff
we
that
want.
doesn't fit anywhere else. So like cooking videos, or we went ghost hunting recently.
Oh,
and
I want to do that
stuff like
so
that.
bad. You're making me jealous.
It was so fun.
It was so fun.
And if it wasn't obvious, we are a husband and wife team. We are married. That's one of the reasons why we started, this channel and these channels. We wanted to spend more time together. And, I was just sitting at work one day and I had like a realization like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be spending the most of my life working. I wasn't really happy there and I wanted to spend more time with Katelyn. And so we made it happen.
Man, I got to tell you, that's a very, very sweet story. I love it. I would venture most marriages, they would not want to work together. And I've seen it go as bad as it goes. You know what I mean? When people try to do that. So when I see what you guys do and what you guys come out with and the results, I'm just watching. I'm like, this is a magical dynamic they have. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend. Obviously, it's a married couple. You guys are going to have your own little private problems or whatever, like every married couple on the planet. But
Now they're still in their honeymoon phase.
That's what
I saw them on stream
we're
kissing
still
up
in
on
it.
each other. You guys
9
very
years.
much.
I love it. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's actually, that's a good question. How long you guys been married?
9 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. See, dude, this is good. You guys,
Okay.
you be you. I love it. I want to ask you. So I'm really looking forward to this podcast because when I watch some of the things that you guys do, it just all these questions just conjure up in my mind. And one of them is, I got to ask. It's not like you guys are just making little knickknacks. You guys are getting in there, doing some really crafty, really skill set heavy stuff to the point to where at one point you're kind of wearing hazmat suits. And I as I'm watching this, I'm like, I clearly would have poisoned myself. I would not have thought to put this on.
Yeah.
What is it that you're working with to where you have to protect yourself like that?
Usually it's resin that we're working with that we wear. We like to call them our space helmets.
But we sometimes do, like, we try to make clear wood where we were using kind of very vaporous chemicals. And also, there's a lot of
Yeah, we
what
work
we
with
do.
those too.
Yeah, there's a lot of what we do. We do it because we're making videos, not necessarily because the situation requires it. Like a lot of times, so many chemicals, you just need to go outside, work in the breeze and the sun, and everything's okay.
Or
But-
you could just wear like a little ventilator.
Yeah,
like
but
a
there's
mask one.
there's
but for
two
us,
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, because we're filming a video, we realize like, we like having the more controlled setting of a workshop. We don't really like going outside. We don't want to like, show off the outside of our house or
And
like
good lighting
our
and
neighborhood.
everything like that.
Yeah, we don't want to have unreliable lighting because we used to only have the sun, and that was not the best for filming. So we want to be inside. So the outside option was next. We did use the little masks for a while, but then we realized like you can't see our faces when we're doing that. So either way, like the audio is not great. Either it's muffled from a mask, or with the space helmets, there's like a fan that runs that you hear. But with the space helmets, you can see our face, and so it's a little bit easier to like follow along. Like if you can see our mouths moving, it's easier to understand what we're saying. You can see our expressions, and so they're definitely overkill than what like someone just doing this as a hobby would need. But for us, because we're filming, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a time where Katelyn was working with a big bag of glitter, and anyone who's worked with the glitter knows once you spill a little bit of glitter,
Oh yeah.
it's with you forever.
Yes, it is.
And she was scooping out some glitter from there, and she ended up pouring half the bag out.
In my defense, we were live streaming. We were live streaming a resin pour, and so I looked to chat, and my hand just tilted, and I poured the whole bag out. But because we were wearing our space helmets, Evan was filming me, like he caught my expression of just like terror when I realized exactly what had happened. But that's just one of those things where, like, if 2/3 of my face had been covered by a mask, it doesn't come across in the video like how awful I felt in that moment spilling that bag of glitter. So.
I mean, I'm sure that when you guys, if you were playing Minecraft just yourself with no one watching, you would do things a lot differently than if you were streaming or creating content. I mean, I think the same thing applies to some real world IRL stuff too,
Absolutely. And you bring up a good point, because when COVID was in full effect and everybody was wearing masks, that's when I learned how much I relied on reading people's faces. When I'm in conversation with somebody, I didn't know it, but we all do it. I am constantly reading their face to really understand how much does it match what they're actually saying. Next thing I know, my superpower is gone. I can't see their face. I don't know what they're actually thinking.
Well, also, we got some feedback when we switched to these masks. Like the hard of hearing community or the deaf community really relies on mouth movement to help understand speech.
Yes.
So I think that again, just because we're creating content, that's a helpful thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I can imagine by this point, people are kind of wondering, like, how did this come together, right? Like Imp and Skizz from the Minecraft world, and Evan and Katelyn, and every gaming, but mainly the DIY stuff. How in the world did we meet? If I recall, it was started like on Twitch. I think you guys popped up in my chat one day, and next thing I know, my viewers were kind of freaking out a little bit that your names popped up, and I was like, "Oh, are they famous?" Like I go and then I look you guys up, and I'm like, "Oh, they are." So since then we've been kind of like lurking in each other's streams and stuff, but like, how'd you guys end up in my chat that day?
Well, I think the long story is, I'll kind of go back to a small degree. We started playing Minecraft, and we have a few different Minecraft series. So we both like Minecraft, and I was actually looking up some tutorials, and I found, some wonderful tutorials from Impulse, and that's how I found you originally. And then I was just kind of browsing around Twitch. I saw, I know Impulse, so that's why I popped in there.
That's awesome.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah. And then since then, it was like I started kind of watching you guys. You started playing a modded Minecraft where you like threw every mod you could find in and just said, let's just figure it out. And I was watching that, and I was like, man, I hope someday I can like get in touch with you guys, and we could maybe do something together, because it just seemed like a perfect opportunity to take like two different realms of YouTube and just like meet each other, get to know each other.
Love that.
And here you're now you're on our podcast, which is awesome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I know. Thanks for having us.
Just maybe you guys don't watch the first season of our Minecraft, because we went in completely like zero experience. We didn't know how to cook food. We didn't know how to do anything. So the first season was us like figuring out Minecraft and experiencing Minecraft from like the absolute beginner perspective.
I think the entire first episode was like, I got lost from you, and I didn't understand how to use the coordinates, and so I'm just lost and dying the entire time. And I like didn't understand. I was like, how do you play a game? There's not like levels. Like there's not.
Katelyn went in so skeptical of Minecraft. Yeah. She was.
I need goals. I don't understand. And then it ended up being one of my favorite games. We played multiple seasons.
That's awesome. There's something endearing though about that experience, about learning on camera for other people. Like then they can feel like, oh, it's normal to be kind of lost at this game when you first fire it up, and then watch other people like and how they learn the game as it goes along. So because it's also, it can be overwhelming. Like if you jumped in and you're like, okay, this mod, and you know everything about it, and they're just like, what? So I think it's actually the better way to do it. So your viewers can kind of like stay with you and learn with you,
Yeah.
I mean, we try to apply that to our other content as well. Like so often we're trying something new for the first time, And we have like a library of skills and knowledge at this point that we can pull on. But like one of our favorite things is to find like a new craft or a new technique material we haven't done before, and figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
because I do think that sorry.
No, you go. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think especially for our type of channel where like we're not trying to be instructional, like we just want to cultivate hangout vibes basically. And I feel like when you're trying something new for the first time, there's just a lot more to like react to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're having more genuine reactions, and I think it leads to more energy.
Absolutely.
Content. I think that can apply to a lot of
Well,
things.
you talked about how like you guys have picked up all these different skill sets along the way in regards to what you do, because I'm really interested in your DIY stuff. And when I see what you guys are doing, I mentioned earlier, you're not just tinkering around. It's while you guys are having fun, it's a great energy. It's a very kind of a lovable experience. It's not lost on the audience. These are very skilled people, and it's a lot of different types of skills that you have, to the point to where I'm like, what is happening? How do these two people come together who are both so unbelievably talented in this crafty world? So walk me through a little bit of the process of what it is when you kind of have to learn a new skill set or tackle something that you haven't really gone for before.
Well, I think that we come from two kind of complementary backgrounds. I come from mechanical engineering and the engineering like field in general. I studied a lot of different ones. And Katelyn,
I was a graphic designer.
but she's also just like a great artist. So a lot of what we do are, either technical or relating to art. And we both kind of bring our skill set to that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our starting foundation.
I will say, it seems like an overwhelming amount of like tools and, like types of materials we use and stuff like that now. In the beginning, it obviously wasn't that much, and we've just added to it. So, we started making things. This was before the channel. In our apartment, we started like building stuff for our wedding.
Oh.
And then actually before we got married, we bought a house, and then we were fixing up the house. That was also before the channel. So we kind of like were learning what we needed to learn as we went. And then each time we add something new to the channel, it's just like, maybe one or two new skills we're learning for that video.
Yeah.
So it's not as intimidating. And Evan often will take on the bulk of like researching for most of those. He's kind of like, he's our pre-production, I'm our post-production kind of. But he'll take on like figuring out what tools we need to get, like pulling up YouTube tutorials, because everything we learn is from YouTube.
Yeah.
And sometimes
like
it will take days. I mean, there might be, multiple days worth of effort before we even start filming the video, like doing the 3D modeling or ordering all of the components or even doing some small scale tests. That's kind of like my job duty.
And you guys have come up with a vast array of different ideas on your channel, anywhere from a giant hamster wheel for your cat to trying to preserve a pumpkin in resin. How on earth do you guys come up with these ideas? And second part to this question is, how's the pumpkin doing?
Okay, so we have the pumpkins.
Do you really?
No.
If you would like to see.
Oh.
So two, we have two that survived. This is our year one pumpkin didn't make it.
Our year one pumpkin perished horribly.
Year two is Bean.
Wow.
He's still here. He's still covered in resin.
Yep.
He's a little crusty. Other than that, he's okay. We give him like a new coat of resin each year just to like, just in case.
That's awesome.
He's the one that we dehydrated with like
so he's all
salt
wrinkly.
and everything. So, he's still as he was when we resined him.
I apologize for the audio only listeners.
Oh, yeah,
No, this is
fair enough.
perfect. They're going to have to come to YouTube
Yeah.
now and watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
But so the second year pumpkin is still looking good.
He's not. We have him on a rolly cart. Should we try to lift him?
Oh,
How heavy is that thing?
Meatball's
Do it
so
together.
heavy. Meatball's
He's really
so
heavy.
heavy.
Meatball. I love
so
the
his
name.
name is Meatball.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
What? And
gosh.
don't drop that. Oh my goodness.
It is a solid
he-
cube of
Meatball.
resin. That is insane.
Yeah.
Probably
It's
weighs like what,
crazy.
100 pounds?
No, he's not 100 pounds, but
I mean,
he's like
he's a very heavy.
he's like
heavy
60
boy.
pounds maybe. He's a big boy.
Wow.
And he has turned. I mean, he looks about the same as he did when we covered him, but he's not. He doesn't look too great in there. He's like half of him is like quite white,
Oh, there's like
But is-
liquid
there's
sloshing
liquid.
around. Oh
Is there
my
liquid in there? I was
gosh.
gonna
Shoot,
say, like, I was
update.
expecting like mold in it just to be nasty by now, but no, it's preserved
Wow.
really well. That's insane.
So
Yeah,
I
there's
think
some liquid, though.
the surprise with the year 3 pumpkin. So for those who didn't know about the video and watch it, we carved a pumpkin, we set it inside of a box, and over the course of about a week, we poured in layer after layer of resin because you can only pour so much resin in at a time.
This is meatball, the one we just
The meatball,
showed.
yeah. But as we were pouring the resin, he started
Decomposing.
before we
So, like,
fully
The
encapsulated
bottom
him.
section of him is like well preserved, and the top section is not. So it's gonna be interesting over the years.
Yeah.
But going back to your original question, like, how do we come up with our ideas? I think it's like, well, one thing, we come up with ideas faster than we can create them. So we always have a really long list. We have like literally hundreds of ideas on the list. And a big thing we think about is like, what would be fun for us to tackle? Because if it's not fun for us, it's not going to be that fun of a video. So like the process itself needs to be fun.
We also want it to appeal to the YouTube audience, not just our subscribers, not just people who know us, but people who don't know us and who might be intrigued by the video concept and everything like that.
Yeah, so we try to come up with something that's like a little weird, or might wonder like, okay, I'm seeing this thing in the thumbnail. I have no idea how that would be made. How do you make that?
And then we also want to choose things that are doable. And those are kind of the 3.
That's our Venn diagram. Like,
Yeah.
we're excited about it. Hopefully someone will click on it. And then it's also doable. Because we have some ideas that like would take a year, like, so that doesn't really fall into the doable category for us right now.
But we still keep it on the list because maybe
Yes.
some element from that might be used somewhere
Yeah.
else. Or maybe we can buy the most time-consuming component that's not as interesting and then, do the interesting part ourselves so to make it more usable.
Yeah.
So we don't throw away ideas. That's why the idea list keeps on growing. It's at 600 right now.
I
Oh my God.
I have this vision in my head that they're just sitting at the dinner table eating dinner together and just bouncing ideas
Yeah.
off of each other the entire time.
Yeah.
Is that what it's like?
It is often stuff like that.
Sometimes.
Like, we'll go on walks, or like honestly, a lot of times we're not necessarily trying to brainstorm. We'll just see something that will trigger an idea, or like, for whatever reason, like 2 elements of past videos will come together and we're like, oh, we should combine things this way.
Wow.
And
So
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
guys okay, these ideas are fantastic and they're so much fun to watch. And I want to talk a little bit about the Resin Keyboard because it ties into a very specific question I
right here.
have. You actually have it. Let me see. Look
it's
at
the
that.
one we use at this computer.
That thing.
Oh, you're actually using it.
It's a functional,
Oh my
it's a
gosh.
functioning keyboard. They made every single key. I mean, you guys were literally using tools that I'm like, I didn't know a tool like that existed. There was like an XYZ drill that they used to actually carve in the numbers on each key. It was just
Oh, yeah.
amazing. And I loved how it just kept flying off the machine and you'd finally had enough. You're like, I'm just taping it on. But so I'm checking this out and it got me thinking, much like the Minecraft world, there's been times where I'll take on a project and I just sort of find myself pot committed. And I'm past the point of no return. I've got to finish this project, but a big part of me is like, what have I done here? I've bit off more than I can chew. It's got to be 10 times harder in the physical world. And it felt like the keyboard, the Resin Keyboard was kind of in that alley. Tell me, did you guys feel like you wanted to throw in the flag? And have you ever thrown in the flag?
So, like, we definitely do sometimes have that feeling of biting off more than we can chew. I don't think we've ever thrown in the flag when we got to like that far into a project. Sometimes during like Evan's initial testing of things, before we've actually started filming anything, we'll have something that we thought was doable and then realize like we don't have the capabilities to do this right now.
Or it's just like not enough meat in the idea. Like the video would be over too quick, or there isn't enough there.
Yeah. We typically don't scrap anything once we're pretty far into it. Now, the thing that does happen is that we run out of time to keep putting time into it. Because, this Resin Keyboard, there's so many more things I would do differently now. Like, if we weren't making a YouTube video, I might redo all the keys and add glitter to them. I might, do, there's so many different things.
Yeah.
And some of that does get captured. For example, just using the Resin Keyboard as an example again, we weren't initially going to carve all of the keys.
Mm.
We were just going to leave them solid and blank because that was way easier. And then we're like, it'd be so cool. So we added it in. But we don't have time to add everything. So that's kind of the part we have to give up, is like, we usually can't bring whatever vision or idea we have to like its full completion point.
Yeah.
Which is a struggle, especially as a perfectionist. Because there's just not time, or like it would start getting really not interesting to watch.
Mm.
Because it would start getting really repetitive if you just start like redoing things till it's perfect. Like that gets boring, you know.
But one thing that we do tell each, it's like kind of a little bit of a philosophy that we have. Like when things go wrong in the project, usually for the most part, that makes the video more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
when things go wrong, we're like, okay, bad for us in the moment, but good for the video. And in the end, the video is the main thing we're making. Yes, we're also making like physical things that are the end product of the video, but like the thing that like we have some of the most pride in is the video that we're making. Like, was it a good experience for people watching it? Was it a fun video? And I think that, it's hard to be a YouTuber if you don't like making videos.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You picked the wrong craft at that point.
I can imagine you guys learn a lot through the process of each thing that you do, that by the end of it, you're like, I want to do it again because it would be so much better. Second time around, we would crush it. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
But then at that point, the idea has already been done, and revisiting it may not get as much, clicks, right? How hard has it been to avoid? Like, I mean, we were able to do it with the pumpkin, obviously, and that went well. Caught my attention the second or third time around. But like, how many ideas have you had to say, oh, I want to do that, but we can't. It's just not going to hit.
I mean, it definitely happens. Sometimes, like with the pumpkin, we can make it different enough that we feel like we can get another video out
it's
of
a
it.
different process.
Yeah, or space it out enough. Yeah, and when we say different enough, we mean like the experience of doing it will be different enough for us that it'll lead to good reactions from us as we're making it, and that'll make it an entertaining video. Sometimes though, like if we're really itching to do something again, but we feel like it's not different enough from the video we did on the main channel, or it hasn't been long enough, we'll just do it on the second channel, or we'll live stream it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the element of doing something live, and having like input from your audience, can make it different enough. So I think the first time we did this was right after we learned candle making. We just did a live stream where for like 4 hours we made candles with our audience, and it was like one of our more successful live streams. And then back then we didn't do this, but now we'll then take that live stream and edit it down into an edited video. So, it can be viewed by people who want the longer content or the shorter content. But yeah, the second channel's been great for us, just kind of like following our whims, you know?
I noticed that.
And getting to like scratch that itch.
I noticed
Yeah.
you guys have, I think, 7 channels I counted, at least linked in the channel section of YouTube. How in the world are you able to keep up with providing content for 7 different YouTube channels, plus streaming on Twitch?
We don't.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
we would like, I think that we've listened to some of your podcasts and you guys struggle with this too. Our ambition is greater than our ability. We want to do it all. I mean, we have enthusiasm for so many things, but something has to give. And, there's a lot of factors in deciding what you're going to give up. But, we've never regretted experimenting and trying things out. Like, for example, the podcast, we have like 70 or 80 episodes of a podcast that we did fairly regularly. And in a way, doing the podcast got us into gaming, which has been such a positive thing for us, and we enjoy it. So if we hadn't have done the podcast, we wouldn't have started gaming, perhaps. But as of now, we haven't done a podcast episode in probably a year and a half. And, we had to let that go in favor of other things, like maybe having a day off every now and then. Perhaps.
Or
For
filming
shame.
more videos.
A day off.
Yeah. But I think that I definitely have a fear of missing out on something that I don't know. And for me, I'd rather like try it. And if I need to abandon it, then, I tried it. I know that it's not part of our forever portfolio, and that's okay. And that's one of the reasons why we start a whole another channel, because I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of reasons why we have so many different channels, but and have broken it up so much. Yeah, how do we keep up with them all? We don't. I think the main channels we keep up with are our main channel, our second channel,
and then our gaming content, which kind of gets put into a couple different channels.
Yeah.
Whether it's edited or live.
Wow.
And I think
Those are the main ones, yeah.
the uncut.
Are you guys doing all
Evan Katelyn uncut.
the editing yourselves, or do you actually have an editor?
Not anymore. I used to edit everything until when we started the gaming channel, we were like, okay, there's no way I have time to edit these gaming videos that we're doing like at the time like twice a week. So we found editors to help there. And then when we started the second channel, I was like, I really want to film these videos, but I don't have time to edit them. Let's see if the gaming editors would be down to try editing second channel videos.
And by that point, our gaming editors had been working with us for 2 years.
2 or 3 years at that point. And so, they were instantly really awesome at the second channel. And then we were like, why aren't we getting them to help us with our main channel? Like, do you think they'd want to help us with our main channel? And so after trying them on the second channel, we, had them try some main channel edits, and they were awesome. And so at this point, I do still put maybe like a day of editing in per main channel video and second channel video. But, I used to do like 5 to 8 days of editing per main channel video. So it's much reduced.
That's good.
Yeah, so we have them editing basically all of our content now. It's been probably a year since I edited a full video.
That's awesome. Yeah, I suppose that's what you have to do. I mean,
yeah, you got to turn some dials to make it possible. It's what you started in the beginning doing it made sense for what you were doing in the beginning. But then as it evolves, your tactics have to evolve as well. So it makes sense.
But I think it's still really great that Katelyn started doing the editing, because she knows the process. And still, when we film things in a process where it'll be easy for our editors to edit. We film time lapses as time lapses. We film montage sequences as montage sequences.
And like as we're filming, I'm editing the video in my head so that I know, like, okay, we did a long talking scene yesterday. We need to like pick up the pace and make some progress on the project before we have another long talking. Or like we've like montaged through way too much stuff. We need like a talking break because the pace is going to be too fast at this. So I think having edited for so many years, it helps me do that, which I think saves our editors a lot of time, because it's not like we just record the entire project in real time and then say like, okay, you guys decide like what's going to be fast paced, what's going to be slow paced.
So we've had a lot of conversations with people in the past who are content creators, and it's kind of it's a fun world to play in. And one common denominator is, because this is what you guys are, you're content creators, and you are also creators. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of different, right? You're actually physically creating stuff, and you're content creators. It's hard to explain this work to other people who don't play in this field. Like, tell me about your families and what their take is on this, and what their take was early when you were starting. People must have thought you were nuts, because I know that's just the way it works until you make it into a reality, and they can't understand how much work goes into it. Tell me, like, look at Katelyn's face. She's like, yeah, I got a story.
There's a story there, I can tell.
I'm just thinking of, we did have one family member at your reunion tell us literally to not quit our day jobs.
I mean, you're an engineer. Don't do that.
In general, though, our families have been supportive. I think like it probably helps that, back when we had our office jobs, we started creating content on the side and got it built up to a certain point before we like fully quit those jobs. And they could see like, okay, they have income coming in. They kind of like learned as we went about like sponsors and AdSense and all these various things, We
definitely had to explain it a few times.
Yeah, we did explain it, but
like they're like, what? You what?
Yeah.
How?
But I think because we kind of did it in a more cautious way, they weren't too worried about us. And at that point they knew like we had a decent amount of life experience working office jobs. If it didn't work out, we could always go back to that. So So yeah, and they know we're generally pretty responsible people.
Yeah, I mean, we had a certain amount of savings built up before
Yeah.
we quit, and we knew, it was just the two of us, and we were living in a very modest place
Yeah.
with modest expenses, and we knew that like even if things dropped for a while would be okay. But like honestly, when we went full time content creation, we were at 70K subs,
Yeah, 70 or 80K subs.
70 or 80K
So,
subs, and we had kind of built up our revenue enough to the point where we were covering our expenses.
yeah, and we could see the trajectory.
And
But
we could see the
also
trajectory,
we
yeah.
started in the maker space, and in that space, a lot of people have sponsors. Like, there's other spaces of YouTube where it's not as common.
Especially back then.
Yeah, especially, this was in 2017. People did have sponsors, but I felt like there's a difference in different communities, and in the community we started in, the audience was really used to it. So like pretty early on, we were able to put sponsors on our videos, and even though we weren't making a ton from them, we were like, let's learn our lessons now. Like,
Yep.
let's figure out how to read contracts
Very
now.
good.
Let's try to figure out like what rates we need to charge now. That way, if we're making mistakes, it's a much more like low risk mistakes than when we're at the point we are now.
Right.
And so, but by starting that stuff early, it did help us like fund ourselves.
Smart.
You know?
Very smart. So when you guys are, we're talking about how you guys are coming up with ideas and everything. And in the world of collaboration, like a lot of what you and I do, there's, you have to find a way to manage a difference of opinions. You guys are right smack in the middle of what it is to be creative, and you're married and you're working together. How do you guys, there has to be creative differences every now and again. How do you guys manage those?
Well, Katelyn and I, when we first met, we were friends for 5 years before we started dating. So we had like a really solid foundation of friendship and communication, and all of that started. And, we didn't really have any disagreements, in normal life. And when we started creating content together, it's rarely come up, if at all. The only times where we kind of had to learn through that and add new communication skills to our repertoire is oftentimes at the introduction of projects, where we're doing the intro, we're getting rolling. And, I think the first time I used to take on most of the prep for the projects and we had our routine established, Katelyn took on the prep of a project. And then we kind of, we're trying to like create content. And back then we were doing it on the weekends. Everything was rushed. We felt time pressure all the time. I'm sure everyone who's tried content creation on the side understands that place that you're at, where your time is always so valuable forever. And I think that the time pressure is the only thing that causes us that stress, that gets us like, worked up some. But then, we're like, hey, we're both kind of getting upset. Let's figure out why. And even though we were rushed, we went inside, we sat down, and we're like, hey, what kind of threw us off in that moment? And how can we prevent that from happening again?
Yeah, and we realized like, it was because we changed up our responsibilities and we didn't each fully know what the other person was going to be doing, and then we ended up not being on the same page for the intro of the video and stuff like that. So it does happen. And then like in terms of like ideas, like having creative differences in ideas, a lot of times, because our idea list is so big at this point, there's so many that we're really excited about. If there's one that we're not quite on the same page about, we'll just be like, okay, let's table that one and like in the background kind of like work on it till we are on the same page, and let's do this one because we're both like 100% gung-ho about this one, and let's like get going.
But also, I think in general, if one of us, I think this is like for all of our decisions, like, like let's simplify it down to something that everyone understands. Going out to eat. Like if one of us has a strong preference and the other person's like, I'm whatever, we go with that strong preference. If both of us have strong preferences, we'll work through something until we're like, okay, well, let's do one and the other, or what have you, So we kind of take that.
There's also veto power. If one person's like,
yeah.
I cannot, we've had tacos 5 days this week, I cannot have tacos again.
Either of us has full veto power over everything.
Yeah.
So I think that
applies to like the projects as well, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So, again, it's just like a lot of practice. I mean, we are with each other all day, every
All the
day, forever.
time.
And, we get really good at communicating and figuring everything out. And also, we don't, Caitlin's mentioned that she's a perfectionist. I'm not sure if I'm a perfectionist, but I do love improving. I love constant growth. And if we ever see a moment where we're like, hey, that didn't work out as good as we wanted, and I think we can do better, we'll work it out. We'll think about how we can streamline. We'll make a cheat sheet. We'll make a process and put that process in place to prevent miscommunications from happening again in the future, or what have you. Whatever caused the issue, we can solve it. That's something that we can tackle. So we always just try to improve.
It's becoming evident why you guys work so well together. I'm seeing like actual real-time reflection happening. I'm seeing a lot of humility happening. I'm actually seeing something that I'm willing to venture neither one of you has even entertained, is that you guys are probably becoming much, much bigger role models than you're aware of. It's more than just the product that you're putting out there. It's who you two are together. And I'm finding this very, very fascinating, because it's got to be tough, but you guys, you sure make it look easy. And it's a lot of, I don't know, it's very refreshing. I like this a lot. It's just,
I was poking fun because I said, you act like you're newlywed on stream and kissing on each other and stuff, but at the same time I was like, "Aw," you know what I mean? Like you just get that feeling as a viewer, like that's the kind of love you want to have with somebody. You can just see it, and I think in a different light, that's kind of what drew people to me and Skizz, is because we have such a strong friendship that a lot of people kind of gravitate towards, wishing they had that kind of strong friendship in their life, and you guys have a strong partnership with each other, and that's kind of the same thing. So yeah, it's really refreshing to watch. You guys are killing it. You're doing a great job, and I lurk often. I don't like to say stuff in your stream because, as you guys saw, and when you came to mine, everybody kind of freaks out. And
say something.
I don't want to take attention. I don't want to take any attention away from you guys and doing what you're doing. So I just lurk. I lurk a lot, actually. But yeah, it's just fun to watch you guys, whether you're gaming or whether you're doing the DIY stuff. I was thinking, as you were talking about all the different things that you have to do as a creator, learn contracts, learn how to get sponsorships, editing, lighting, cameras, all this stuff. And because you're doing physical world stuff, not just recording gameplay, you have to do all these other things, right? You have to be a cinematographer. You have to, all these professions. And then on top of that, you're learning how to build things like a giant laptop, right? Like, How has that been for you? Because it just feels like information overload in order to just make a video.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Are we just used to it at this point? I don't know.
I don't know. I think, again, if you go back to the beginning of any of our channels, I mean, you two have both been making videos for so long. Do you ever go back and watch like your first videos and see like the audio and the lighting changes
not willingly,
that have happened over the years?
It's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful.
I mean, it's similar to some degree for us. I mean, we didn't, right now we're at a ridiculously complicated setup, and we have 3 whole sets in our house. Plus we have the office and an equipment room and everything. And it all started with just like a single camera that Katelyn got for free from a convention, and we bought a mic for that. No, we didn't even have a mic.
We didn't have a mic. We only did voiceover.
We only did voiceover, and we did some in the moment audio where it was picking up on the camera and it was horrible.
Yeah.
But our first video was like how to add drawers to like a drawer pulls to a dresser.
Yeah, it was customizing an IKEA dresser.
Yeah, I mean that was like our first video, and we had a bad mic. We started a Patreon. The first thing that we bought with our Patreon funding was a mic. And we're like, look, guys, we got a mic that's 1% better, And then we kind of build on it from there, It's not all at once.
I'll also say that like both of our personality types do enjoy like improvement and learning and stuff like that. And so and even if there's one of us that isn't really into that specific thing, oftentimes the other one is, which is like the benefit of having 2 of us working on this. Like Evan is really good at the technical side of things and really likes to dig in and optimize tech setup, or like, research a new camera, stuff like that.
I have that addiction too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you probably have a similar thing with a lot of the like physical, like making, building,
And
engineering
tools,
side. And
fun tools
new
and toys.
Yeah, a lot of it's fueled by you, actually.
I can imagine you
In
guys
terms
just
of
have like a
learning new things.
giant storage container somewhere with all this stuff in it.
I wish we had
It's
a
a
giant
whole
storage
room.
container.
We have a room in our house
Dedicated
that's
room?
just like the storage room. Yeah, because it used to be in the old house, it was the guest room, and now we were like, we need to get a house that like we have a room we can devote just to storage, so that like if someone comes over, we don't need to clear it all out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we do accumulate stuff quickly.
And I
Like-
think that another thing that we do, because we do have, so many different channels and we do so many different things and have so many different skills, we offload a lot of what's in our mind into systems that we've set up. Because I mean, I'm sure you guys know, you have your personal lives, you have a lot of different things going on. There's a lot to keep track of in everyone's mind. But we like we have a shared do app, and we can assign things to each other and take down notes there. We have a whole like advanced spreadsheet table with all of our project ideas, all of our projects in process, who is editing what, all of that. And even for content creation, we actually have a cheat sheet for ourselves of like, when publishing a video, check for this, and this. Like review the title one more time.
When you're
Here are
coming
some
up
title
with intro,
suggestions.
when you're coming up with intro ideas, like here's some things that you've done in the past. Like we've gone back and looked at our own videos, because sometimes we'll be at the intro and we'll be stuck, because there's so much pressure on an intro. So we're like, okay, we could do a skit. We could do something where we know there's going to be like a preview of something later in the video, and then like we have more of a cold open. We have all these things, cheat sheets and resources we've set up for ourselves to make it a little bit less overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
Oh man, very cool. So I gotta ask. Okay, so your guys' the energy that comes off of you guys is very, very delightful, and it's fun to see the things that you make. It's fun to see that, but the medium is perpetually like sunny, if you will, right? It's just like this. It's this really sunny attitude and great energy, and it feels like, and I'm not trying to add to your list here, but it feels like the ether is just screaming for you guys to make a children's book. and I'm thinking along the lines of a children's book that is very specific to crafting. Like, there's this crafting books all left and right, but to have an Evan and Katelyn children's book, like my brain's like, how has this not been done? And is that something, have you guys ever considered a different medium path like that?
We've been reached out to by a company or two.
We have considered doing something like a book or things like that. And the main thing that we have to think about is, okay, there's only so much time in the day, and there's so many things we already want to do. Are we okay taking away something else in order to do a new thing if we're going to take that new thing on? And that's kind of what guides us. So even going to like, products and stuff we could sell. There's like, we would love to do some sort of like custom product, and we even have gone like decently far down the path for some past ideas, and then it just became like it wasn't quite right, or it was too time consuming, and we were like, should we just make another video instead? Like we could just film something else instead right now. And like sometimes we're more excited about just getting to more ideas on our list of things we want to film than like taking on this other side thing.
Well, I also think that we're not trying to speed run through our career as content creators. We always try to set ourselves up for future us. We're thinking of us, but we're also thinking about future us. We don't want to set precedents that future us can't maintain. We don't want to go down on paths and set precedents that future us will not like, And we're always trying to like look as long term as we can about this, and look even in towards like, like a soft retirement in the future. What are we going to do then? And do we want to save some things for then? And so like, I think the best way to put it is, we don't want to speed run through our career as content creators. Not that anyone has had a full career as a content creator. I mean, you guys have been doing it for almost as long as anyone has.
Yeah, we've been going 10
and
years.
yeah, I mean, 10 years is like you guys have some of the longest careers of any content creator, and like it's not a full career yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's not done.
What is the
you
full
know?
arc that people are establishing? And the
And
thing
usually, if you see someone end it, it's because they've burnt out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes back to us not wanting to try to speed run everything all at once. We're like, it's better to grow a little bit slower, or like, you know, take on these various opportunities a little bit slower if it means that we can do this for more years overall, because we're not like totally burning ourselves out. And as long as, you know, things are like growing at a healthy pace, whatever that is, different for everybody. Like as long as things are like at a level we're comfortable with, we're like, okay, this is cool for now, and we can always take on more later if we want to. Like we're still trying to like cut it back some.
Yeah,
But
but I
still
mean,
trying
like,
to like have weekends.
if
you know?
the excitement was there, we might
We would-
go for
yeah.
something at the detriment of something else. Like you guys want to do more IRL stuff,
Mhm.
and that's a big enough priority to you guys that you're going to find something to trim away to make that happen. It seems not that
Something's
we're
gotta
committing
give.
anything.
No,
Yeah,
something's
you
got to
know,
give. You're
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
right. And
Yeah,
I really like the way he phrased it when he said, we're not trying to speed run through
Yeah.
our career here.
That's a good way to look at it.
What a beautiful way to put it, because I think so many people just find it within themselves to say, if this is something I'm doing, I got to go all the way, and I got to don't stop, don't get out of my way. But you guys have found this beautiful cadence where it just works. And it's, I'm not suggesting you guys aren't working hard. You're very, very clearly working very, very hard, but you're not interested in trying to get to the end as quick as you can.
Mhm.
You're enjoying
Yes,
the journey, and that comes across in your videos. It comes across in when you guys are streaming. It's just, it's good. I can learn from this.
I think there's a common fear with content creators that it's all just going to end in the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah.
Like I wake up tomorrow and suddenly nobody cares about me anymore. Especially being a gaming creator, you know, relying so much on how well the game is perceived by the audience. Is you know, Minecraft gonna no longer be a popular game tomorrow, therefore my channel is no longer popular, therefore my career is over. As a kind of a DIY creator, do you share those fears still, or is it a little bit different being in that space, knowing that DIY will always be a popular subject to your viewers?
I think that when we started out our career, we were also thinking of future us. We wanted to future-proof things, and the way that we kind of try to do that is we resisted the urge to go all in on one thing to the detriment of us at the moment.
Yeah.
Even to that point, because like we could have, you know, one thing was popping, and we could have just leaned into that more, but instead, in some ways, we kind of leaned away from it. Because we didn't want to become all about that. And we actively, I mean, I remember one time we were out to lunch, and we had been kind of going on DIY for a while, and we had been wanting to do an art video for a while.
Mhm.
And I think we wanted to do Bob Ross.
We wanted
or
to do a
something.
Bob Ross tutorial.
And that was a huge departure for us. You know what I mean? Like, just the two of us following a Bob Ross tutorial. That was a huge departure from our content at that time.
Which was mostly like building furniture and decor. That was when
Yeah.
we were still doing like slightly more practical stuff.
And I still remember the moment where we decided, you know, let's just go
do it.
for it. You know, it may be a 10 out of 10. Back then, did they even have 10 out of 10s?
No,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like we'll take that hit. We'll learn from it. We'll see what was worked about it, what didn't work about it, what have you, and we'll kind of start pushing in that direction. And I think that the main thing that's relieved some of our fears about the job is because we have continually pushed in new directions. You know, we started the podcast, had some success with that, but we kind of left that aside. That wasn't super successful monetarily.
Well, and we got excited about doing other things
Exactly.
like more gaming and the second channel, and
Yeah.
so something had to give, and we gave away the podcast.
Yeah,
for
and like
now.
for gaming, I mean, we've been working on gaming. We started gaming just because we're like, hey, we're not playing games anymore. That sounds fun. The only way to kind of make that happen in our lives at that moment is if we turned it into business. And we had a lot of fun with it. We've maintained, you know, our approach to it. Whereas if it's not fun, we're not going to do it, because the whole reason why we started this was to have fun. But over the years, that's really grown into a more substantial part of our business. and we're really happy with that. So I think that venturing into new areas and new content type and finding some success has helped with that fear. Katelyn, I think, was the one that was most fearful.
Yeah, I think I tend to be the one that worries a bit more between the two of us.
I'm like, let's just do it. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying worried more about like, we don't know how long this is going to last,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so it definitely took me a while to get to a point where I was more comfortable with like the sticking power of what we were doing. And not that I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this for 40 more years, you know, like, I still have in the back of my head, like, we don't fully know how long this is going to last, but I'm more confident now that we can, you know, it's not going to happen suddenly if anything happens, and we can pivot as needed because we have, like Evan said, pivoted before into new things and found success in a variety of different things.
Yeah.
So I do think that helps. The thing that you know, is maybe slightly more of a worry is like, you know, and it's not as much of a worry now, but it was for a while. They're like burning out. Like we really actively like try to be conscious about not burning out. And so part of that was like diversifying what we were doing, even though it's a little counterintuitive. Like, oh, don't want to burn out, start a bunch more channels.
Yeah.
But we could pull back on our main channel and like try these new things that were a little bit lower pressure and lower stress. And we did all this very gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Like one of the ways we think about kind of our audience, it's like I think that like we're like the driver of this big bus with like a lot of people kind of behind us. But the bus is open on all sides. So if you turn too fast, you might like lose some people. I guess it's more of a truck. But like, you know, you don't want to steer too fast because you might lose some people. And, you know, I'm sure that there were some people. I remember when we started transitioning into different types of content, we got those comments like, oh, you're not doing this type of content anymore. I'm out. And I'm like, that's okay. You know, we're not tying you up to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was some people that were disappointed when you stopped doing the podcast because they were into it, especially after 80 plus episodes, however many you did. But I like what you're saying about, you know, having some variety kind of keeps you fresh. If you do the same thing over and over again, that's a good way to burn out. You kind of apply that variety style to your gaming content as well. You didn't single go into one game and just dive in, you know, kind of like I've done with Minecraft. You keep a variety gaming channel. So like every week I tune in and you're playing some game I've never heard of, and it's fun to watch because it's something new and different. Now, has gaming been something that's ingrained in like both of you since childhood, or were you like gamers all along, or is this something new for you?
I think we were both gamers from a pretty young age. And then like, you know, as we went into adulthood, it kind of, you know, got put to the side with adult responsibilities, you know,
well,
taking time.
We're too practical at times.
Sometimes we are too practical, which is why when we wanted to start playing games again, we were like, we have to make it part of our like work to trick ourselves into doing it.
I think that there comes a point in people's lives, perhaps, you know, like, you know, for us, it definitely happened when we started content creation. But I think we had to kind of mourn the loss of guilt-free, unproductive time.
Yeah.
Have you guys had to kind of go through that?
If you figure out how to do that, let me know.
No. We've buried that. We've mourned it and we've moved on. You know. But I think that's one of the things that really made gaming hard for us as content creators. We knew we could be doing so many more things, and we would enjoy it. Our audience would enjoy it. It would be good for our job and all these things driving for it. And I think that's especially the moment where we had a lot of hard time playing games, even though it was something that we was part of our life and our identity. We figured out how to turn it into our job. But
now, is that healthy, turning all of your hobbies into work?
I don't know. I think it depends on how you do it, though, you know?
I mean, no, it's a good point because I loved video games when I was younger. I loved all sorts of stuff, right? And I find myself in a space now to where I play video games for entertainment. I'm streaming it or I'm making videos or whatever. I'm having fun playing the game. I'm not playing the game because it's fun. Like it's weird. It's like this is to the point to where I never, and I can use never with a capital N, I never game unless it's creating some sort of content. And truthfully, I don't even know when that happened. It just sort of became.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I sacrificed a piece of myself that I don't even care to go back to, you
Yeah.
know, but
When's the last time you guys played a game not on camera?
Yesterday.
He's been playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah?
Which, granted, we did stream it. That's the new Zelda. We did try streaming the first episode, and if it had been like a top performer, we probably would have kept streaming it instead of Evan playing it on the side. And it just did like okay. And so we were like, it's such a big game. I don't know if we want to commit to doing like, you know, a 30-part series that's only going to be like going downhill from just okay.
But games have changed what they fill in my life. You know, like it's more of an idle game in some ways. You know what I mean? It's not as much of like a sit down for big sessions and stuff like that.
You kind of play it in the same way that some people might play like a mobile game.
It's just like 5
minutes here, 10 minutes there.
It like creating content around games definitely has changed how I approach things. Because like you said, Skizz, it's like I have fun creating the content. I have fun with the live stream. I like hanging out with our audience and getting that live input. Getting you know, like, and also like it makes me feel good that people enjoy it. Honestly, I mean, it's like, hey, it's like a win-win-win. The things that are pure wins across the board are rare in the world, you know. So might as well go for it. You know, I don't know.
Do you ever have that same pressure with like the DIY stuff? Like you got something in the house that needs some sort of building or you know, some sort of project behind it, and you're just like, should we record this for video or should we just do it?
Yeah, that does happen. We've I think we had been able to put that aside for a little bit before we started the second channel, because our you know, bar for what, you know, could become a main channel video was so high in terms of like how interesting it needed to be or whatever, that there were some things that we like knew wouldn't fit that. But now with the second channel, since it's a bit more fluid and flexible, we're like, well, we could probably make that entertaining enough to be a second channel video. Should we just do that? Like we did a video organizing our closet when we first moved to this new house.
There you go.
And part of it, like part of the reason for deciding whether or not those things will be a video will be like, you know, with the example of the closet, we knew we would just keep putting it off if we didn't make it a video. So we made it a video. But then there's some things where making it a video will actually put off the project more. Like Evan just did a bunch of like stuff in this room, adding a bunch of like sound dampening things, and you know, there's a mess with the tech setup a lot. And there's a chunk of our audience that's always like, give me a tech video, give me a tech setup video. Like I want to see your room set up. So I'm sure there's some people that would find that interesting, but trying to film that and making it like interesting enough for something that we would want to put on our channel would slow it down more than speed it up. So we kind of have to like run it through that filter and say like, is it going to slow things down? And are we going to have less fun if we try to make it a video rather than just like doing it here and there on the side? Or is it going to speed it up / is it going to make it more fun if we make it a video?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, so you talk like when it comes to your main channel, like the real focus there is quality, making sure that everything you post on there is up to like your bar, right? Your level of standards. When did that mindset kind of seep in that you were definitely targeting quality over quantity? Because the old YouTuber ways were pump it out. If you don't pump out a video every X amount of days, people are going to forget about you. And but you're not exactly taking that approach with your main channel. You're taking your time, making sure that each video you put is going to be a quote unquote banger video, right? Was that a decision you guys made early on to focus on quality over quantity?
You answer that question, but I want to interject something here real quick. One thing that we've realized early on is that time invested doesn't necessarily equal quality. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because it could be a really quality idea of something that's really quick and easy to make. And I think that we were listening to one of your past podcasts where you were talking about getting into IRL stuff, and you were worried about the time commitment of quality over quantity. But there's a, if you have the right shtick, if you have the right approach, if you have the right messaging around an idea, it doesn't necessarily need to be high effort. It should still be high effort. I'm trying to like come up with my words here on the spot, because I didn't really plan in covering this. But
sometimes you can put a ton of time into something, and it doesn't mean it's going to be a better end video.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Now, and I think like one way that we've taken that is like we try to put more time into coming up with the idea, and like we'll want to make sure like that there's going to be a good thumbnail and title before we even start filming something. We want to make sure that the idea has something that's like interesting enough before we put all this time into it, rather than like picking a super huge project that might take a ton of time. And like for us, that feels like, okay, you know, you want something that takes a ton of time to like be higher quality and be worth that effort. But a lot of times like our quicker videos will end up getting more views than the ones that took a lot of time. Like there's it definitely is like, it's not always intuitive.
And it's not cost either. Like we've spent a lot of money on some videos that didn't really pay out, where we spent a lot less on some and it really paid out a lot more. So,
but I think to answer your original question, like I think thinking about the quality over quantity, one, we were always kind of limited in quantity because when you're making things, like you can only do that so quickly. And for the first few years of our career, you know, we hadn't started the gaming side. We just had our one channel, and we could only make things so quickly. And I think we, like, when you're first kind of learning, it's almost more about like learning how to make the video, and we weren't even that too focused on what the project was. It was just like what's something we can make in the nights and weekends just to like something. And then we started getting more and more ambitious and doing like larger builds and getting more tools and doing more and more. And that like limiting factor of like things, you can only do things so quickly, that in some ways became even stronger as we were doing bigger projects and things like that. So we could never batch out like a huge amount of quantity.
But I think there's definitely like a minimum quality we have across the board for all of our channels, you know. But we also know that like to some degree, no one understands how YouTube works.
Right.
No one understands the algorithm.
Yep.
If anyone did, they, you know.
That's correct. There's a lot of people who think they do.
Yeah.
A lot of people who do.
Maybe
Yeah, they think they do, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, he knows one specific path towards making the algorithm
and he knows
work
that path
for
really
him.
well.
He knows that one path, but there's a ton of paths to get to different types of success, whether it's a really tight-knit community or a really big community or what have you. It really depends on what your goals are.
Yeah, and we share the same kind of philosophy with the multiple channel thing, like giving people a channel to, this is what you're going to get on this channel.
Yep.
This is what you're going to get on that channel. So there's no confusion or no like
no bait and
feelings.
switch.
Yeah, exactly. There's no hard feelings if you know I subscribe to a Minecraft channel and then suddenly I got IRL content from this dude that I never really cared to see. Like that's why we've kind of created like an Imp And Skizz podcast, separate channel from like our Imp And Skizz gaming stuff that we do. And at first we were a little confused. Like we weren't sure, because it was hard to be like, oh, we have this channel with 100,000 subscribers and we're starting this podcast. How can we not put it in front of those 100,000 people? So we did that and immediately saw like, oh, that's not really what they're here for.
Yeah.
You know, so we're like, okay, we'll kind of change paths. And now with our separate channels, they all have like their own separate thing. We both kind of post our VODs to another channel, and the great response there. Like there are people that want to consume that style of content, and I think you guys have found that too. That's why you've kind of split out, you know, your different channels from what I can tell too. So I think I feel like that's the right way to do it. You know what I mean? Just so your viewers know what they're subscribing for.
Yeah. And you have to be at peace with you're gonna miss sometimes. One of the things I'm really liking about you two is that you guys swing, And we had a podcast, one of our earlier ones, called What's Stopping You? And it was about, when you want to give something a go, just go, stop thinking about it, go get started, go get moving. You guys swing, whether it's the project or it's opening a new channel or trying something completely new. You both subscribe to it. I'm not going up there to just look at the ball. I'm going to swing. And that's, I think, it made two things happen for you. One is you've learned a lot of, that didn't work. And then you've also learned of, dude, I just smashed that out of the park. This is something I'm going to squeeze on. I like that. So it begs the question, your DIY stuff is so fascinating to me, and you guys just try so much and you do so much. Do you have a proudest project that you've done to date? It's what an unfair question, but I got to know.
I think that to some degree, my general instinct is to say, the last one we did, because we just experienced those endorphins most recently of like, part of it's also like, yay, we're done. But I mean, there are some, like, a lot of times the bigger builds, like the world's biggest laptop was a big standout for me, that I was really proud of how it turned out. And I was like, we made something really cool,
Yeah.
And I invested a lot of time into that. I think that was one of our longest time investments. So
it was one of in the past year, it was probably the project we put the most time into.
Besides the wooden keyboard, maybe.
Oh yeah, that one.
See, look at them. Like, so you guys create, and then you purge. And right now I'm making you revisit those memories. And that's why, like, he said what he said, and she's like, oh yeah.
we kind of suppressed some things of like, oh my gosh, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, which you kind of have to, and you guys understand this too. It's like YouTube is such a treadmill that like you don't get to stop and reminisce on the thing you just did, because you're already filming the next one. And so you do just have to kind of like keep going.
Or do you guys take time to like, I released a video today, I'm going to appreciate that for a while.
I have learned that if I release a video and I don't immediately get started on the next one, I get stuck for more than a day. So I will blink and 3 days will go past where I haven't like started my next project. And I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I've kind of made it a rule for myself that if I publish a video that day, I at least get started on the next one, whether it just be getting an outline of how the video is going to go, or just maybe recording the intro, or just something to get the ball rolling. Otherwise, I get stuck in the mud. It's just been it is a weird thing that I found, that where I just blink, like I said, and I'm like, oops, 3 days. I haven't started my next video. Now I feel behind, and I have this weird thing too, where my clock's always ticking, and I'm just like, okay, how many days between videos before the viewers forget that I exist? You know what I mean? So I do have a bit of like this push, to keep on some sort of time frame. I wouldn't say like quantity over quality, but I also feel like there's a certain TikTok cadence of releasing videos that's like a sweet spot for the viewers to stay interested.
And it depends on your content too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think one thing that's interesting is, based on some conversations we've had and some things that we've noticed, the algorithm is much more important to some degree than who's subscribed, because the homepage gets pushed so much more than your subscriber page or the page where you can see everyone that you've subscribed to. I don't know if that's different for like your audience who watches more serialized things, who wants to like see the full list of everything that's published in that order. Is that something that you've noticed, or is it very algorithm based?
Yeah,
for you guys
I
too?
think so, because we have like seasons, right? And so we have episode numbers, and it's like if I went away for a while and they started watching somebody else because they were used to watching me every week on a Friday or whatever it was, and all of a sudden I'm not there for a few Fridays, that they're just like, well, I got to watch something, and then I go watch somebody else, and now I'm latched onto them instead. And so there is that happens, and then there's also the fact that like we all have lives, including our viewers, right? So when things come up in a viewer's life where they miss a few weeks of your content, then they feel like it's not worth catching up, and they're just out. They're just out, right? So serialized content does have that effect, and affects like my channel differently than it may affect yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's very
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's because and you don't it's you want to find that sweet spot, like you're saying, find that balance, because if you release too quick, then you're going to exacerbate that issue you were just talking about.
Yeah.
If you release too slow, you're going to lose interest, and
Right.
even not only are they going to go watch something else, but YouTube itself is going to say, well, it looks like you're watching this now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna push this to you. So it is. I tell you, there's no perfect answer. And I've had it, like anytime I release a video, which I wish I could release a lot more. I'm not full-time yet. I still actually have a full-time job in major tech. And every time I release a video, I kind of view it as a fighter pilot who just shot a heat-sinking missile, and they say fire and forget, right? You're not supposed to watch the missile seek its target. You're supposed to fire and then bank. And that's so anytime I do this and publish and send, okay, and I do, what's next? You know what I mean? And it hasn't even released, and I'm already trying to work on the next video. And even then it gets away from me. Because like you said, you blink, you're like, oh, it's been a week. What am I doing? Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. So
Do you find that when you're out of necessity moving on so quickly, does that make you less attached to the video's performance that you just released, or is it still like,
Oh, great question.
oh, that sucks when
I
it's
wish
a
it
10?
did.
Or
What a great
I wish it
question.
did, because like it isn't fully fire and forget. It's fire, go work on something else, and then when the curiosity hits, how did that do? You know, a day later you go back and you
Oh
look
yeah,
and-
yeah. I'll go look for results and everything.
yeah.
But I don't. But I like the question, because when I'm editing, when I'm putting together whatever it is I'm putting together, to me it's very much like painting, right? It's not just about doing like filming it, but editing, putting the music in there, doing the cues and everything. And as I'm doing it, I am dancing. I am in that moment. I am loving what I'm doing, and I see the whole finished product, and it's done. And when I put a bow on it and hit push, that's when I fire and forget, because what's done is done. I've already sent it out there. I'm not pulling it back, and then I just try to move on. But I do go visit the numbers and everything.
Yeah.
But but then you're right. How about this? There's been times I'm like, this one's good. That was a good video. That was, hey, look, a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then I'll release other ones. I'm like, I don't know, I guess 1 out of 10. Well, I guess I have no idea how this world works.
Yeah.
You know, just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that to some degree, our start in YouTube making one-off videos sometimes will affect how we approach our gaming channel. Oftentimes, like, we'll go through periods where we play a game for a while, but to some degree, we feel some resistance to start long games, because there's a chance that we might stop them, and some portion of our audience will get upset.
Mhm.
We don't want to do that too many times and set a precedent. And we personally want to finish these games. But I think that there is a little bit of a hesitance to start long series, because what if it's something that drops in the middle, and we're also excited to try this game and this game and this game. Like we always want to do so much. So there's always this draw to try new things. But that's one reason I think why we like playing a lot of one-off games, because each one can be a little missile instead of like a long chain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That can droop, or what have you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I noticed on Twitter that you guys have been posting. You've actually been making it out to some conventions lately.
Yeah.
And most recently, I forget the name of it, but you met Mark Rober. Did I see a picture of you guys hanging out with Mark Rober? What is going on there? How'd that come about?
We did. We started going to events again end of last year. It was like we turned on the dial, and then we're like, let's do all the events. So I think since we started end of last year, we've been to 4 or so.
Wow.
Yeah, so our friend William Osmond always wanted to start an event of his own. A long time ago, there's this event called
Maker Faire.
Maker Faire.
That kind of ended around the pandemic.
Yeah, and it had a lot of like science and DIY. It was very much like in our genre of events. And then there's VidCon. We went to VidCon for the first time a while ago. Maker Faire didn't really have much focus on YouTube and content creation. VidCon was all about that, but it's so generalized, and there is no. I think VidCon is a struggle in concept, because when it was first started, there was like a shared YouTube experience where everyone was kind of watching the same thing. But as YouTube has diversified, it's hard to capture that same magic. So our friend William had the idea to kind of combine those two ideas, have like an event that's focused on content creators in the maker and DIY space. And that was what Open Sauce was.
Yeah. So the recent event where we met Mark Rober was called Open Sauce.
And
yeah, it was just I think because the event was so focused, a lot of the creators who were there, like, even if you didn't know someone, you kind of were familiar with them, and so it felt very summer campy, everyone together.
Well, it was maybe like your Minecon experience,
Yeah.
like, you know, like such a dense concentration of people with the same interest. That's kind of what like Open Sauce was.
Yeah.
So that pulled a lot of bigger people in the community out. I just pulled a ton of people in our community out, and Mark Rober was one of those. I don't know how Will connected with him.
They did a collab a long time ago. The lemon.
Yes.
lemon
Yeah,
thing.
that's it. That's probably
the
why.
big lemon battery or something.
And so, you know, it was a great event. And Mark Rober gave some talks at the event, and he also invited all the content creators over to his
Crunch
Labs. That's where he's making some of his videos, but also it's like a toy company, kind of like a subscription, build your own.
Yeah, the
kit
engineering
thing.
like boxes, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen those.
Yeah.
So we all drove out there and hung out there for like a few hours. It was fun.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like a giant playground, essentially, like being there. Like, you know, there's lots of bits and pieces from, you know, past videos. Like there was like parts of the squirrel,
obstacle course.
Yeah. You know, we got to like ride down
it's like a
it.
pulley system that works with air pressure and everything.
Where you get to like jump off the second floor and like
It's been in some of
slowly
his
fall
videos,
down
yeah.
to the bottom floor, and like there's Nerf guns everywhere.
We know what one of his upcoming videos is.
Oh,
We know a secret video.
We're not gonna
That's
tell.
NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
It's called Friend DA.
Friend
Yeah,
DA.
Friend
He
DA.
didn't sign anything. Okay. Yeah, but he will refuse to collab with you in the future if you spoil his video. So be careful.
You know what? They're going to get themselves a nice glitter bomb if they were to spoil it.
Yeah. But it was really cool, and you know, we definitely tried to like play it cool, you know, coming up to say hi and stuff. But it was a really fun event, and definitely going to these events again after so many, like 3 years of not, basically, just really made us realize, like, yeah, we need to hang out with other YouTubers and content creators more often.
Yeah.
It's great for like solidifying connections into friendships, or like, you know, sometimes like, you know, with the parasocial relationships, they're going on everywhere all the time. But sometimes there's like a mutual parasocial relationship going on between two content creators, and then you hang out, and it's basically just like a head start on being friends.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
Absolutely.
we know so much about each other, and let's just like pick up a friendship at like, you know, hyperspeed, basically.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's so fun. I mean, I'm sure you guys appreciate having a friendship where you can talk about like YouTube and the algorithm and share thumbnails with each other and gripe about things without having to preface them with like, you know,
a billion disclaimers.
a billion disclaimers and everything.
Yeah.
You can just kind of like jump into lots of niche topics. It's you know, that's the same with, you know, other content creator friends. It's great.
Yeah, and we're lucky that, you know, we have each other, you know, that we can like get excited about the same things because we both fully appreciate, like, oh, how cool is it that we just got to do that, or, you know, both vent about the same things without having to give all the caveats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say, like,
But-
do you leverage that when you have a video that underperforms and maybe you start to get a little bit down about numbers or whatever? Is that something that you will like grieve together, or will one of you kind of like pick each other up, or how do you handle that kind of situation?
I think, you know, we'll both kind of mutually get bummed about something if, you know, something underperforms or whatever. But I do think one thing that helps us is like, because we've diversified our content, like usually at least one of the things is doing pretty well. So even if like last couple channels on our videos on the main channel like were, you know, lower ranked, like ooh, but our like gaming videos are doing really well right now.
Yeah.
So
Very
it's like,
good.
Yeah.
so far we've been lucky that at least one thing was like doing pretty well that we could like get excited about. But the other thing we try to remind ourselves is like, okay, even if something didn't perform really well, we're choosing videos that we're going to have fun doing. Either like the process is going to be fun or it's just like a thing we really want to have at the end. And so it's like, okay, yeah, it didn't perform as well, but I still stand by it. It was still a fun experience. I was still glad we have this thing now. And also a lot of our videos have like a very long life. So like, you know, there will be something that was like a 10 out of 10 performer and a year later it's over 1 million views. And we're like, oh,
When did that happen?
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's
we'll
true.
just tell ourselves like,
Maybe
we'll
it'll do better
Yeah.
later.
There you
do
go.
good in the long run.
And if
It'll
it
be
doesn't
fine.
do good in the long run,
Then
we're so far
become-
removed from
Exactly.
it
Yeah,
that
we
it doesn't
become
hurt anymore.
detached.
Yeah.
It's always a nice surprise when you look back and you're like, oh, when did that start getting views? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
So, which of you cares the most about the comments?
Ooh.
Mm.
We have been pretty lucky with our community so far. We have a really great community, so the comments are a fairly positive place.
Yeah, we read more comments like you know, earlier on when we had time to read more comments and when there weren't as many. We actually used to respond to every single comment for like a few years.
Wow.
And then it just got to where like we couldn't
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that
We
anymore.
were-
Like,
we were
were
replying to,
spending
like, thousands of
every
comments a
waking
day,
moment
yeah.
replying to comments. And since we kind of gave up that, we don't read them all anymore. We still like, especially on the first 24 to 48 hours, try to read, you know, as many as we can. But the good thing about that is like the people that are watching in the first 24 to 48 hours, a big portion of them are like people that like you,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And so like people are pretty cool. We purposely try not to dig too deep. We'll stay reading the like, you know, upvoted comments, you know, recent comments. And then after that, we kind of, you know, we'll still see them. They'll pop up like on our studio app, but we
Right.
don't like seek after them. And like we've been lucky to not be like severely impacted by negative comments. I think the ones that have affected us the most are when like it's already something you're kind of worried about,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you just feel like it's being confirmed.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if people are just like, oh, these two are annoying, like I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know,
You
I
know.
think that it is good to keep a finger on the pulse. I'll go into the
Yeah.
comments a decent amount, even like, you know, just randomly. I'll just choose a random channel and go into the comments, do a little scroll and everything, just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I'll probably look at them more, but neither of us really let them impact us.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's
So
it's
far,
not-
so good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe they just maybe the negative ones just haven't like hit on the
Yeah,
right thing.
struck the right
recently. I
chord.
know when we were transitioning like to be less instruction based and more entertainment based, we were putting a lot more of our personalities into the videos. And there was definitely a lot of people that were like, you two actually used to like you know, make useful content and stuff. And you know, and now you're just like talking the whole time. Like, you know, speed it up, get to the point. And those didn't really bother me because I expected them to happen when we started putting our personalities more into the video and making it more about like us having fun trying to make this thing and less like, hey, we're going to tell you the steps we followed to make this thing. But I do think one thing that's helped us is because our personalities are a very strong part of our videos. So if you don't vibe with our personalities, you're just not going to watch.
Correct.
Like you're going to peace out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so that almost creates like a filter. Like in some ways we probably could grow faster if we were just like focused 100% on like making the coolest projects and we didn't put our personalities in there.
Yeah.
Because then it's more widely appealing.
I think that's what Mr. Beast talks about a lot. He tries to make videos that are appealing to the biggest, broadest audience, and make the biggest, you know,
Yeah.
everything. And he looks for
And not put his
Yeah.
personality into it too much.
Hmm.
And for us, it's kind of opposite. Like we're okay having that filter and growing less because it means our comment section they're nicer because like people actually like us if they're watching our videos most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's important.
So I do think that helps.
Yeah, it's important to like have viewerships that connect with you and not necessarily the thing you're making, right? Because that means they'll follow you no matter what you do, right? They'll probably go watch your gaming channel. They probably listen to your podcast. They probably will follow you with whatever your next venture is, and that's what you want. You want to build that strong foundation that's there for you and not necessarily your idea. You know? So I think that's a really good strategy. I think it's probably worth sacrificing what growth, like you said. So I'd jump on that idea for sure.
Yeah, your videos, your personality is your video. The keyboard is just a vehicle at that time, right? Whatever it is that you're crafting, it's just it gives you guys a medium to sort of have your personality like rotate around. Like the keyboard was the nucleus, and your personality is what's swirling around it, and just in that video. But I think you nailed it. I think people are there to see you, and the keyboard's fun. The cat wheel thing that you guys made, which by the way was just so funny. The cat wheel that you made, that stuff's fun. You know what I mean? But it's your personality really is what people are there for.
They'll come back for. Yeah.
And then that's a big thing for you guys too in gaming. I mean, your builds are just an excuse for you to, and some, so, I guess it depends on if you're like, because you guys will make help content sometimes, or is it mainly just like experience content?
A little bit of both. I mean, the way I started off on YouTube was mainly, like tutorials and stuff like that. So more the educational side. But then as I grew, like I realized that like there was a big viewership for just wanting to watch the experience piece. And I started kind of pushing myself to be, because I'm an engineer as well. Like, being an entertainer wasn't really ingrained in me or even my initial thought. And when I started YouTube, that's something that I would be trying to do. And so I started to realize that, the people, they want to be entertained. They also want to learn as well. But so I'll try to do a little bit of both. I try to, like in my Minecraft videos, I'll try to show them something cool and maybe technical, and they could learn something from it. But at the same time, I also want to go and just like hang out and goof around with my friends and like have some kind of personality that they can attach to. So it is a strong thing to juggle. It's a strong thing to transition from like tutorial based kind of very technical to I'm here to entertain and like show you my personality and hope you like me. But it's just been a slow journey for me to do that. And at the same time, not completely letting go of the tech side, because I know that my initial following, that's what they came for. And if I just completely stopped doing technical Minecraft, then I'd probably lose them. And that would be a bit painful. So yeah.
It all comes back to that big bus.
Yeah.
You don't want to turn your bus too quickly and have a bunch of them fall off all at once.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that like a mental shift that I kind of clicked for me at some point in the process is we are making, like the thing that we're making is the vehicle for us to react to. I'm not sure if I'm saying this the best because I haven't fully sometimes my brain gets ahead of my words. And I'm wearing a shirt that says words are hard right now.
You came with the disclaimer on your shirt. Yeah.
But like, I'll take one more stab at it, then Katelyn can say it better than me. It's like what we're doing and what we're making. One of the big reasons why we choose one project or another is like one will have more for us to react to, and we're looking for us to have these experiences that we can react to, and that's one of the reasons why we might choose one thing over another. Okay, now you can say it better.
Yeah, I think you basically
Okay.
said
Good.
Nailed it.
Like we recently kind of had the realization of like putting it this way, but basically like we're in a way almost creating reaction content, but we're not like reacting to like other videos online or like TikToks or this or that. We're like reacting to the experience of like making this thing, or like in terms of playing games, we're like reacting to the experience of playing this game. And that's why sometimes we might choose a project that like has a lot of resin in it, because that has a lot of like interest to react to, because resin's very unpredictable and it's kind of artistic. You never know where it's going to go, as opposed to a woodworking based video, which you can't like react to a lot in the moment when you're doing a lot of woodworking, because you need to be concentrating and measuring, cutting and not cutting off your fingers. And, you know, it's loud and stuff like that. You have a lot of safety gear on. It's not the best for like reacting in the moment.
I think also that's why a lot of people in Minecraft will choose objectives that are hard or difficult or challenging.
You put yourself in a struggle condition.
You can be like, yes, success.
I did it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. You go after a big project that kind of seems like kind of a tall order, and once you get to the end of it and you get to experience, you're like, look what I did, man.
Yeah.
Well, and also in the middle of the struggle, you can make a lot of like you can get some good fun content out of that too, because everyone relates to struggle. Everyone has struggle in their lives, and you're struggling with this goal that you set yourself, but that can still be entertaining to watch people beat their head against that.
Yeah. It was harder early on to not just hide the mistakes and the struggle, right? Like you wanted to portray I'm this perfect person, right? I never get anything wrong. And so I found myself early days not having the confidence to leave that stuff in and be raw with it. And so that I would come off as like, oh, this he knows what he's doing. You know, he's this smart technical Minecrafter. Nowadays, now that I've kind of leaned more towards the entertainment piece, I like leaving that stuff in. I think it's raw, it's vulnerable, and it's the thing that makes us human that the audience can relate to. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Do you ever build like a big contraption, you go to turn it on, and then it's completely
failure.
breaks?
Complete failure. And then you just kind of laugh it off. And, you know, I think at that point, we're there to also be like life coaches, you know, in a way that, okay, I just had this big catastrophe moment, and what am I going to do? I'm going to pick myself up, I'm going to re-engineer it, and I'm going to show you that I can get over this thing that happened and learn from it and overcome it. So I think there's like a lot of life lessons that we teach almost inadvertently through some of these stories we tell in our videos, right?
I agree.
It's like leading by example in a way.
Well, Evan and Katelyn, I got to tell you, I was nervous about this one. I was a little nervous about this, and I'm going to tell you why. One of our lights just went out.
Yeah.
All the interviews we've had in the past were people that we had pre-existing relationships with. We knew a lot about them. There was obviously a lot of fodder that we were both aware of. This is going to be a new one for me. I'm excited, but I'm nervous about it. And I got to tell you, you guys are just like some of the most lovely people I've ever had the pleasure meeting. This has been nothing but a delight. It's just been
well, you guys are really great too. I mean, you know, we love your vibes. I mean, that's what like that's what we kind of look for. It's like who do we match up with in terms of our energy and stuff like that, you know?
We have that parasocial relationship that we'll have to we'll have to speed run a friendship when we finally make it to convention.
Together. We'll fight at a convention together. No.
Let's bother Minecraft about another Minecon.
Yes, please.
There we go. Maybe TwitchCon or something someday. We can get you guys at. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for spending your time. This is one of our longer podcasts, which obviously means that we've had a great time having this conversation with you guys. So I appreciate you taking time out, and it's been great getting to know you. To our viewers, listeners that obviously have never checked out your content, and they've got a chance now to kind of understand what you're about, we encourage them to check it out. We like to put links to all your stuffs in the descriptions and stuff, so they'll give them a chance to go see what you're about.
Yeah, go check. It's Evan and Katelyn. Go check them out. You're going to be interested in the things that you're seeing them do, but me personally, go check them out so you can see the cutest damn couple I've ever seen in my entire life. You guys are something special. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are amazing. Have a good one. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.